So when you're developing a management style, you need to look at when the market is going to be best to market those lambs. So you have two options. You can try and market lambs all year round for a consistent supply and cash flow, which is a great option. We are going to look at kind of what Lakeland does as far as having one time of year that we market the lambs, and we are focused on that time of year. So then you move back and figure out when to lamb. So how do I figure out when to lamb? I'm gonna look at the ethnic holiday planner, and I'm gonna link in here. It's actually from the Ontario Goat Association. It's a 5-year ethnic holiday producer planner. It gives you all of the holidays that you can look at, and then I will also link the Alberta Lamb Producers Market Report, and so you can look at the highs and lows over the last 5 or so years, and so you can kind of compare the holidays with the highs and the lows of the prices, and you can look at what is going to work best for your management style. So at Lakeland, we're a little bit limited in when we can lamb because we need to lamb while the students are there for that learning purpose. But we do have a bit of flexibility as to when during the semester we can actually lamb. So beginning of January, mid-January through to March. We have tended in the last few years to try and go in as early in the semester as possible because the Ramadan holiday has been getting earlier and earlier every year. And so we're trying to hit about 70 pounds around that time. So that is kind of our marketing goal. So we do have multiple products that we are marketing, but our main focus is going to be that meat market on a commercial basis. That is the goal that we're going for. That is how we breed our ewes. That is how we market. That is what we focus on. The other pieces that we market are not as linked to the holiday times because we're marketing maybe replacement stock, purebred animals, purebred rams, etc. So they're a little bit separate, and you can market those differently, but what we focus on is the meat market. So just going back again to that Alberta Lamb Producers Market Report, it has some great data. They send it out weekly, and it shows the market in Western Canada as well as the market out in Ontario. So Ontario's market is slightly stronger than Western Canada, and as a result we do have trucks. If you have enough lambs to head out to Ontario, that is another good option as well. We at Lakeland send our lambs to Beaver Hill auction, and it seems to have really strong prices across comparing to the rest of Alberta. Did you want to say something to the class? How do I figure out what weight to send the animals at? I have developed a spreadsheet that has included in it the current prices from Beaver Hill Auction Mart, and then kind of my projected prices for the next 2 weeks. How I get that is I kind of extrapolate the current prices and then use the data from the last 5 years from that Alberta Lamb Producers Market Report. It is not an exact science. We don't have a futures market in sheep, so I can't just look at that online, but I kind of come up with those numbers and hope that they're somewhat accurate. So that's how I figure out what maybe my prices are gonna look like in 2 weeks. I also coordinate that with the Ethnic Holiday Planner, like I had mentioned before, just to make sure that the peaks that I'm looking at are coordinated with the right holiday for that time, so that my prices are somewhat accurate, so I know when the peak price is going to be. So what I always look at, and I have developed a bit of a spreadsheet, I put in the cost per day to feed those animals. I also have in that spreadsheet the average daily gain of our lambs. So the average across everything is about a 0.6 pound per day. And that was a couple years ago data. Our good and strong lambs are going to be closer to that pound or around. Some are over, some are under pound per day of gain. So depending on their rate of gain and the amount that it costs you to feed them per day is what you can figure out is going to cost you to bring them up into that next weight category. So I can figure out, okay, it's gonna take about X days and X number of dollars to put another 10 pounds on them. Is it worth it for me to keep them for another 10 pounds of gain and then sell them at that point? Or should I sell them now? So that is kind of the calculations that I go through. Just looking at, say, a 50-pound lamb, 70-pound lamb versus 110. 110-pound lambs, you do have the option of selling directly to slaughter. So you can call SunGold Meats and you can get a contracted price from them for a set date that you believe that your animals will be around that 110 pound of weight. And then they will give you kind of a locked in price and you feed them up and then ship them to there. The last few years, I've called and have not been able to make more money feeding them all the way to slaughter. So I have elected to sell them around that 70-pound mark to Beaver Hill Auction. Now, the other option you do have is to find a feedlot that would take them directly. So instead of going through the auction and having to pay the commission fees there, you could contact a feedlot and send them directly to the feedlot. So that is something that we are going to be looking into next year as well. So just looking at the market in general in Canada, it is quite strong. We do not supply enough animals to meet the demand that we have. In that way, our prices are not nearly as volatile or dependent on, say, an export market, which has borders and tariffs and all of the things that you have to agree upon with other countries to make your animals sell at a good price. So another thing I wanted to touch on briefly was understanding a little bit about your cost of production. In order to know what price your lambs have to be sold at, you need to know the price that you're gonna kind of break even at. So what is the price per pound of lamb that I need to get in order to pay for my ewes for the year? So the cost that you need to figure out is how much does it cost to keep one ewe for 1 year? There's a lot of really great spreadsheets from the government. The Manitoba one is great and the Ontario one is really good. So I'll link a couple of those there, or maybe the best one that I can find. And you can work through those spreadsheets and it helps you to calculate the cost of a ewe per year. The other thing that is kind of cool on those sheets is it shows you some risk analysis. So what's going to happen if the market goes down by 5%? What happens to my break-evens? What happens to my final outcome if the prices go up by 5%? So it has some risk analysis stuff that you can look at, and you do want to build in a little bit of risk management into your plan as well. So I think that's a really important piece to look at. It is a little bit more advanced as far as doing the calculations and understanding it, so I don't think it's probably necessary for you to completely understand it for this class. But going forward, it's a really good tool to have. So there is one thing that has the potential to influence our sheep market in a major way. A couple of years ago, a company, a New Zealand-owned company, came in and they now own, ewe flocks mostly in Manitoba. It goes by the name of Canada Sheep and Lamb Farms Ltd. They also own a major feedlot, Canada Gold Land Lot, which is down in southern Alberta. And they also own Sun Gold Specialty Meats, which is the slaughter facility. So they own everything from the ewe flocks all the way up to the slaughter. So that has the potential to impact our market. The goal of this company is to create a consistent product of lamb, which is a historical problem and a weakness for Canadian lamb in general. They also have the resources to market lamb as a good meat option for Canadian consumers instead of just beef, pork, or chicken, right? They have the capacity to put lamb on the plates of Canadians, as maybe they do in Australia and New Zealand. It is a bit scary when a single entity has the monopoly on the entire supply chain. So that is something that I guess we need to just keep a watch on and be proactive as producers in understanding how we can fit into this and to still be competitive. So the last thing that we want to look at, whoops, a little goat just fell down, so I need to put him back up. Whoop. Come on, goatie. So the last thing that I want to touch on is just kind of what it looks like in the barn. Okay, so it's marketing day. What do you actually do? So there's actually a really great video. There's a lady by the name of Sandi out in Ontario, and she does vlogs and a lot of great information about her sheep operation. I would highly recommend her channel. So I will link, there's a specific one about marketing sheep that she has, and she goes through the process in the barn of how she sorts the lambs. So at Lakeland, the lambs are weighed at birth, as you know from lambing, and they're weighed again at weaning time, which is around 50 to 60 days, depending on when that lamb came into the pen and what pens are weaned. And then they're weighed every 2 weeks after that because they grow really fast. So Sandi shows a little piece of how there's really small lambs and really big lambs, and they're not that different in age. And so it's really important to keep tabs on the weights of your animals. And then at the same time, keeping tabs on that market so you're knowing kind of which ones you want to send to the market. So our system down in the barn has the FarmWorks, the Shearwell FarmWorks system on it with the True Test scale head. So that's what we use, and there's kind of an automatic sort system, so you can hook it up and send anything over 90 pounds to the right, anything from 70 to 90 pounds straight forward, and anything under 70 pounds can go to the left. And so you can kind of get a little bit of a handle on your groups of lambs and your weights and where you're at with that. Sandi has a very similar technique. She just has a little bit of different technology that she uses. Her lambs, I think they're gaining a little bit better than ours. Our average daily gain, as I mentioned before, is more 0.6, and some of our good lambs are closer to a pound a day. So I'll link that video, and yeah, shout out to Sandi for some awesome videos. We're faithful subscribers, followers of her channel. So yeah, that would be a really great thing to check out as far as just what the process looks like in the barn on marketing day. Okay, this is proving to be a little bit more difficult than I thought. I've tried to shoot this video like 4 times now.